I once made $5,000 and lost $10,000 on the exact same setup, just a week apart. I once watched two traders take the exact same setup. One made $2,000, the other blew up his account. Same chart, same signal, same entry. So what made the difference? It wasn't strategy, it wasn't timing, it was mindset. Let me tell you what happened. Back in 2021, I was part of this tight-knit trading group. We shared everything: charts, levels, entries, even journaling routines. One morning, a clean breakout pattern formed on Tesla. Same breakout we all planned for. I took it, Sam took it, Ryan took it. Sam, he exited with a 3R profit. No hesitation. Me, I froze, took partials too early, then re-entered on FOMO. FOMO ended the day red. Ryan, he went full size, no stop loss, and got wiped out in a single candle. That trade exposed something terrifying. The real game isn't in the chart, it's in your head. Same setup, 3 results. 1 calm, 1 emotional, 1 reckless, 3 mindsets, 3 outcomes. And I realized if I didn't fix what was happening inside me, no edge, no strategy, no indicator could save me. That was the day I picked up Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. That book hit me like a freight train, not because it was inspirational, but because it was brutally honest. It didn't teach me how to beat the market. It taught me how to stop beating myself. Since then, I've journaled, tested, rewired, and internalized 50 mindset shifts straight from his work. Not just theories, real shifts. Things that actually help me stop sabotaging my trades and start trading like a pro. And today, I'm going to share with you the 10 most powerful ones. If you've ever blown up a trade you knew was solid, if you've ever hesitated, exited too soon, or revenge traded out of anger, then you're not broken. You're just trading with the wrong mindset. So let's fix that together. Welcome to a journey that might just change how you see the market and yourself. The market owes you nothing. You know what used to piss me off the most? Doing everything right and still losing. I'd study all night, draw my levels, wait patiently for the perfect setup, manage my risk, and still get slapped in the face by the market. And every time I'd think the same thing. This is unfair. I followed the rules. I deserve to win. That one word, deserve, was poison. Let me take you back to a specific day I'll never forget. It was a clean setup on EUR/USD. Breakout of a multi-week range, all indicators lined up, volume confirmed. I went in with textbook risk management, 1.5% risk, tight stop. Trade triggered, pushed 20 pips in my favor, and then reversed hard. Stopped me out. Clean. I sat there staring at the screen, jaw clenched, and then I did something stupid. I got back in. Same trade. Bigger size. It's got to bounce. It should bounce. Spoiler, it didn't. I got stopped out again. And this time I was down 4% on the day. That night, I journaled angrily. I wrote, "Why does the market keep punishing me when I'm doing everything right?" And the next morning, I reread Trading in the Zone and came across this line: "The market doesn't know you exist." Let that sink in. The market doesn't care if you stayed up until 3 a.m. backtesting. It doesn't care if it's your rent money. It doesn't care if you need a win to feel good about yourself today. Sure, the market owes you nothing. That was a brutal realization, but it set me free. Because here's the trap most traders fall into. We think effort equals reward. And that mindset works in school and sports and business. You study hard, you get an A, you train hard, you perform better, you work overtime, you get promoted. But in trading, effort means nothing if you're not aligned with probability. Sourcenark. Let me show you the contrast. There's this guy in my old trading group, Eli. Eli barely spoke, quiet, methodical, no emotion. He once said this in our Discord call: "I don't expect anything from the market. I just expect me to follow the plan." At the time, I didn't get it. I thought he was being cold, mechanical, maybe even arrogant. But then I watched his performance. While the rest of us were overtrading, revenge trading, emotionally spiraling after a red week, Eli was consistent because Eli didn't demand outcomes. He aligned with them. And that's the shift Mark Douglas hammered home. Your job isn't to make money. Your job is to make good trades. The money follows the edge, not your effort. Here's what changed when I internalized this. 1, I stopped feeling betrayed by the market. I realized the market doesn't have intentions. It's not a person. It doesn't reward or punish. It just is. 2, I stopped trading with expectations. I no longer expect a win. I no longer expect a move to work. I only expect myself to follow process. That's it. 3. I stopped taking trades personally. Losing a trade used to feel like rejection, like the market was telling me you suck. Now, it's just one iteration in a system. No judgment, no drama. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you said this trade should have worked? The market shouldn't have done that. I did everything right. Why did I still lose? If you've caught yourself thinking those things, congrats, you found a mental blind spot. You're still emotionally attached to outcome. You're still trading with entitlement. You're still acting like the market owes you something. It doesn't. Think of the market like the ocean. It doesn't care if you're an experienced surfer or a total rookie. It doesn't care if it's your first wave or your 100th. It just moves. You don't get mad at the wave for not carrying you. You just learn to position better next time. That's what trading is. It's not about fairness. It's about adaptation. I remember writing this on a sticky note after my turning point. The market is never wrong. My expectations are. That one sentence saved me thousands of dollars and years of mental struggle. So here's your challenge for today. Start watching your thoughts. Notice when you say things like, the market shouldn't have done that. I did everything right. Why didn't it work? This trade owes me a bounce. It's due for a reversal. Every time you catch yourself saying those things, pause. And remember, you are not here to be rewarded. You're here to execute with discipline. The market doesn't pay you for effort. It pays you for alignment with risk, edge, and neutrality. And that's why this is mindset shift number 1. The market owes you nothing. But once you accept that, you stop fighting reality. You stop bleeding from expectations, and you finally begin to see clearly. Because from here forward, every trade is no longer about what you deserve. It's about what you decide. And that is power. Coming up next, mindset shift number 2. You don't need to know what happens next, where we break the addiction to certainty and unlock true confidence. You don't need to know what happens next. You know what used to keep me up at night? The fear of not knowing. I used to stare at my charts, scroll through news, overanalyze indicators, trying to predict what the market would do next. Because deep down, I believed, if I could just know what happens next, I'd finally be safe. Spoiler, that belief almost destroyed me. Let me tell you what it looked like. There was this one trade on gold, perfect wedge pattern, MACD divergence, volume drop before breakout, everything lined up, but right before I was supposed to enter, I hesitated. What if this is a fake out? What if Powell says something tonight? What if? So I waited and watched the trade go exactly as planned, hitting the target I had already mapped out. I didn't lose money, but I lost the opportunity. Worse, I lost trust in myself, and then the next time, I forced a trade to make up for it. That's when it hit me. I wasn't trading a system. I was trading my need for certainty, and that was killing me. Then I read this line from Mark Douglas, and it shattered my mental model. You don't need to know what's going to happen next in order to make money. At first, I resisted that idea. How could you not know and still win? But then I thought of casinos. Casinos don't know the outcome of any single hand of blackjack, but they still make billions because they have an edge, and they execute it relentlessly. That's when the shift happened. Trading isn't about being right, it's about being ready. Let me show you the contrast. I had a friend, Chris, pure analyst type. Knew everything about macroeconomics, central banks, monetary policy. He could explain inflation swaps and yield curves like a professor, but he barely placed trades. He was always waiting for more confirmation, watching the sentiment, monitoring correlations. He needed to know before he acted. And guess what? His account didn't grow. Because perfection paralysis is still paralysis. Meanwhile, another trader I knew, Jen, had a simple system. She didn't care about news or economic forecasts. She focused on execution. She managed risk ruthlessly. She had no idea what the Fed would do next quarter, and she was consistently profitable. Why? because she didn't need to be right. She just needed to follow her edge. When I finally internalized that, my whole behavior changed. Before, I'd obsess over every trade. Is this the one? Should I wait for more signs? What if it fails? Now, I just ask, does this setup meet my criteria? Is risk acceptable? Am I ready to execute and accept the outcome? And then I take the trade. No fear, no fantasy, just process. Because here's the truth, trying to predict the future is a burden, responding to the present is a skill. Let's get tactical. When you believe you need to know what happens next, here's what shows up. You hesitate at entry. You cut winners short. You add to losers. You revenge trade after surprises. You overtrade to figure it out. All of that stems from one toxic belief. I must be right. But trading doesn't pay you for being right. It pays you for managing risk when the odds are in your favor. That's it. Imagine this. You're flipping a weighted coin. Heads pays $2. Tails loses $1. You don't know what comes next. But over time, heads shows up 60% of the time. Would you need to know the outcome to profit? No, you just need to play the game consistently. That's trading. Your edge isn't in prediction, it's in probability plus execution. Oh, and fries. So what did I change? 1. I stopped needing confirmation from the market. Once I built a system with clear rules, I followed them, not my feelings. 2. I accepted randomness. Some trades will win, some will lose, even if they look identical. That's not chaos, it's probability distribution. 3. I trusted the process, not the outcome. I detached emotionally. I judged myself not by the result, but by how well I followed my system. This shift unlocked something big for me. Confidence. Not the kind that comes from being right, but the kind that comes from consistency. Because when you no longer need certainty, you're free. Free to act decisively, free to manage risk like a pro, free to take the next trade without hesitation or regret. That's the mindset of a real trader. If you've been sitting there waiting for perfect clarity, if you've been paralyzed by why, what if, if you've ever whispered, I just need to know what's coming next, let me give you permission. You don't. You don't need to know what happens next. You only need to know this. What's your edge? What's your risk? Can you execute consistently? If yes, pull the trigger. Because uncertainty isn't the enemy, it's the entry fee. And once you accept that, the entire game changes. Next up, mindset shift number 3, the random distribution of wins and losses, where we finally stop judging ourselves trade by trade and start thinking like pros. The random distribution of wins and losses. I did everything right and still lost. I broke every rule and still won. That contradiction used to haunt me. Because in any other field, medicine, engineering, sports, good process usually leads to good results. But in trading, you can follow your plan to the letter and lose. You can break every rule in the book and walk away green. It doesn't make sense until you understand this one brutal truth from Mark Douglas. An edge only yields results over a series of trades, not any one trade. That realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Let me walk you through it. A few years ago, I had built what I thought was a solid trading system. Win rate around 55%, average RR of 1.8. I was proud of it, confident, maybe even cocky. Then came the losing streak, 5 trades in a row, all stopped out, all executed correctly. I spiraled. I questioned everything. Is my edge broken? Am I missing something? Is the market changing? And then came the worst thought of all, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. But a mentor said something I'll never forget. If you believe in your edge, 1 trade means nothing. 10 trades means little. 100 trades means truth. That night, I opened Trading in the Zone again and reread the section on randomness. And it finally clicked. Even with an edge, you don't know which trade will win. Outcomes are randomly distributed. Over a large enough sample, the edge plays out, but only if you're consistent. That one idea changed my entire approach. Instead of trying to control outcomes, I started thinking like a casino. Casinos don't care if the next hand is a win or loss. They care about the next 10,000 hands. They don't flinch when a player hits a lucky streak. They just keep playing their edge because over time, they win. I started seeing myself as the casino, not the gambler. Here's what I changed. 1. I stopped evaluating trades in isolation. I used to judge each trade emotionally. Now, I treat each trade like a coin toss in a rigged game with a tiny edge, nothing more, nothing less. 2. I built tracking systems. Instead of obsessing over P&L, I focused on, did I follow my entry rules? Did I size correctly? Did I execute my stop and target? That became my new definition of a good trade. 3. I embraced streaks without panic. Losing streak? No problem. It's part of the game. Winning streak? No euphoria. Just keep emotionless, consistent, professional. Let me give you a visual. Imagine you have a 60% win rate strategy. Now imagine flipping a weighted coin 10 times. Will you win exactly 6? Probably not. You might win 3, you might win 7, but over 100 flips, that 60% starts showing up. Now imagine judging your entire self-worth after flip number 4. Sounds ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what traders do when they obsess over single trades. Here's a painful example. There was a trader in my network, let's call him Max. He had a beautiful breakout system, back-tested for months, great RR, clear risk control. He took 7 losses in a row, completely within expectation, but he couldn't handle it. He doubted the system. He overrode the next signal, skipped 3 trades in a row, which all would have been winners. The streak broke him, not because of logic, but emotion. And just like that, a statistical edge died from inconsistency. The irony? Most traders don't fail because they don't have an edge. They fail because they don't give their edge a chance to work. They quit during the losing streak. They double down on revenge trades. They get scared, skip entries, miss winners, all because they believe every trade must prove something. But that's not trading. That's emotional gambling. Here's how I reframed my entire mindset. One trade means nothing. It's like one inning in a baseball game. My job is not to win this trade. My job is to follow process over a sample size. Each trade is just one rep. Just like a gym session, one rep doesn't change you. But 1,000 reps, that transforms you. So now, when I take a trade, I say this one doesn't have to work. It just has to be one of many. That phrase resets me, calms me, keeps me focused on the long game. Because in the end, the traders who win aren't the ones who call the market perfectly. They're the ones who stick to process while others fall apart during randomness. That's why this is mindset shift. Number 3. Wins and losses are randomly distributed. Accept it, embrace it, and free yourself from the emotional roller coaster. Because once you stop judging yourself, trade by trade, you can finally start trading like a professional. Coming up next, mindset shift number 4, beliefs versus reality, where we uncover the invisible stories running your trades and how to rewrite them. Beliefs versus reality. There was a time I thought I was trading the market. Turns out I was trading my beliefs about the market, and that subtle difference nearly ruined me. Let me tell you a quick story. I used to avoid volatile days. NFP, CPI, FOMC, I'd shut down my charts. I believed high volatility meant chaos, danger, gambling. So I stayed out, even when my system triggered flawless setups. One day, I watched from the sidelines as a pattern I'd backtested 200 times played out perfectly on FOMC day. 3R profit, clean entry, textbook. But I wasn't in. Why? Because of a belief I'd picked up early in my trading journey. Volatility equals risk. Risk equals danger. Danger must be avoided. It wasn't a fact. It was a belief, and it was costing me. Here's what Mark Douglas wrote that cracked me open. You don't trade the market, you trade your beliefs about the market. Think about that. Everything you see, every chart pattern, every candlestick, every headline is filtered through the lens of your internal beliefs. Beliefs about what setups are safe, what timeframes are better, what losses mean about you, what a real trader should do. Most of those beliefs, they're not facts. They're emotional leftovers from your past. I started digging into my own trading journal, and I saw it clearly. I held onto trades too long because I believed it'll come back. I added to losers because I believed I'm smarter than the crowd. I skipped great trades because I believed I'm on a losing streak. I can't trust myself. None of those were objective. They were all stories, disguised as logic. And worst of all, I didn't even know I was telling them. Let me give you another example. There was a trader I coached. Let's call him Jordan. Jordan had a solid edge, back-tested beautifully. He knew when to enter, where to place stops, and how to manage risk. But his results were all over the place. Why? Because whenever he hit 2 losses in a row, he stopped trading for the week. His reason? After 2 losses, I'm clearly out of sync with the market. Sounds reasonable, right? But guess what? That wasn't part of his system. That wasn't based on stats. It was a belief he picked up from a YouTube guru years ago. And that belief was costing him winning trades every month. Once we ran the data, we saw he actually had higher win rates after a 2-loss streak. But because of that belief, he was sabotaging himself. The key lesson? If your beliefs don't match reality, reality will win. And you'll pay for the gap with money, stress, and inconsistency. Here's what I did to start rewiring my beliefs. 1, I made them visible. I started writing down thoughts like, this market is manipulated. If I win this trade, I'm back in control. Losing means I suck at this. I don't trade Mondays, it's always choppy. And then I asked, is this objectively true or just something I believe? You'd be amazed how many things sound factual until you challenge them. 2, I replaced them with principles. Instead of volatility is dangerous, I wrote, volatility creates opportunity, but only if I control risk. Instead of, after a losing streak, I should stop trading, I wrote, streaks are part of statistics. My job is to stay consistent. I created a belief checklist, not of rules, but of truths, and I read it before every session. 3, I looked at the data. Beliefs feel powerful because they're emotional, but data tells the truth. So I tracked performance by day of week, win rate after losing streaks, entries taken versus missed, emotional rating after each trade of fears. And what I found, most of my negative trading behaviors were tied to beliefs, not logic. For example, I believed I couldn't trade well after 11 a.m., but my win rate was actually higher in the afternoon. That belief cost me months of missed trades. Let me ask you this. What do you believe about red days? What do you believe about revenge trading? What do you believe about yourself when you lose? Are those beliefs helping you, or are they keeping you stuck? Because until you challenge your beliefs, you'll keep repeating the same patterns and calling it bad luck. This is what makes trading so hard. It's not just about price action, it's about self-reflection. The market will mirror your beliefs, especially the broken ones. Fear, ego, scarcity, perfectionism. They all hide in your belief system, and the only way to evolve is to bring them into the light. So here's your mindset shift. I no longer trade to be right. I trade to reveal what I still need to fix. That one belief will make you invincible, because now every trade becomes a lesson. Every reaction becomes a signal. Every emotion becomes a window into yourself. That's how you grow, not by fighting the market, but by facing your own mind. That's why this is mindset shift number 4. Trade what's in front of you, not what you believe should happen. Because the market doesn't care about your beliefs. It rewards awareness, neutrality, and truth. And the truth is, you don't need better trades, you need better beliefs. Next up, mindset shift number 5, the need to be right is a liability, where we confront the ego and learn why surrender might be your greatest edge. The need to be right is a liability. There was a day I should have taken a $100 loss. Instead, I walked away with a $2,000 disaster. Why? Because I had to be right. Let me take you back. It was a breakout trade on NASDAQ futures. Clean pattern. Entry was solid, stop loss in place. But the moment price started pulling back, I got tense. Felt that rising pressure in my chest. It hit my stop, almost. Within a tick, then bounced, almost back to entry. And that's when I made a fatal decision. I'll just widen the stop. It's not ready yet. It'll bounce, I know it will. It has to. Guess what? It didn't bounce. It collapsed. And I watched it frozen because I didn't want to admit I was wrong. I didn't want to lose the trade because deep down, that meant I was a loser. So I held and watched it bleed. And by the time I hit the panic exit button, the damage was done. That was the trade that forced me to confront the truth. My ego was trading. not my system. And that's the day I wrote this on a sticky note. Needing to be right is the most expensive habit I have. Mark Douglas said it clearly. When you have to be right, you're trying to control something that's uncontrollable. The market doesn't care about your opinions. It doesn't care how smart you are. It doesn't reward stubbornness. It punishes it. But here's the tricky part. Our entire lives, we're taught that being right equals being good. In school, the A students are right more often. In jobs, you get promoted for making the right calls. In life, we admire the people who predicted things correctly. So when we come into trading, we bring that same belief. If I'm wrong, I'm failing. But trading flips that upside down, because here the people who survive are the ones who admit they're wrong fastest. Let me give you two traders. Trader A takes 10 trades. He's wrong on 6, right on 4, but every time he's wrong, he cuts quickly. Small loss. When he's right, he lets winners run. Trader B takes 10 trades too. He's right on 7, wrong on 3, but when he's wrong, he holds, doubles down, refuses to lose. Guess who makes more money? It's not the one who's right more often. It's the one who's emotionally okay with being wrong. I had to learn that the hard way, because every time I tried to force a trade to work, just so I wouldn't be wrong, I violated my edge. I let losers run. I skipped stops. I added size to fix it. And every time I felt that same pit in my stomach, the one that comes from watching your ego lose money, but still refusing to back down. So here's what I did to kill the need to be right. 1, I reframed losing. Instead of I was wrong, I started saying, that was one iteration of my edge. It didn't work. That's expected. I wrote it in my journal 100 times if I had to, until it stuck. 2, I celebrated early exits. I used to beat myself up for stopping out, especially when price bounced later. But then I started rewarding myself for following the plan, not for being right. I treated a loss with discipline as a win, because in this game, it is. 3, I embraced being wrong, loudly. In my trading group, I started posting, stopped out, took the loss, good trade, wrong outcome. At first it felt humiliating, but over time it became empowering. I wasn't hiding, I was owning it. And weirdly, that gave me more confidence than any green day ever did. Mark Douglas said it best, when you truly accept the risks, you no longer have a reason to transform the information the market is giving you. That line is everything. When I had to be right, I twisted the chart, I ignored the signal, I moved the stop. I wasn't seeing the market, I was seeing what I wanted to be true. But when I let go of needing to win, I could finally see what was true. Let me ask you, do you widen stops when price gets close? Do you move targets to at least break even? Do you over-leverage to make it back? Do you stay in a trade longer just because you don't want to admit you were wrong? If yes, then your ego is trading, not you. And until you fix that, you'll keep bleeding. Here's the mindset shift. Being wrong is data, not identity. You're not your win rate. You're not your last trade. You're not your profit and loss. You're a decision maker, and your power comes from how quickly you can let go of a bad decision and move on. That's what separates amateurs from pros. Not intelligence, not indicators. Emotional agility. So from now on, when I enter a trade, I whisper one thing to myself, I might be wrong, and that's okay. Because when being wrong is no longer scary, cutting losses is easy. Resetting is natural. Progress becomes inevitable. That's why this is mindset shift number 5. The need to be right is a liability. If you want to survive this game, lose fast, let go faster, and focus forward. Because the moment you stop needing to be right, you start trading with real power. Next up, mindset shift number 6, discipline over willpower, where we stop relying on emotion and start building habits that work even on your worst days. Discipline over willpower. There's a reason your best trading day often comes after a good night's sleep, and your worst day, right after a stressful argument, skipped breakfast, and 3 cups of coffee. That's not just coincidence, that's neuroscience, because willpower is unstable, discipline is not. And once I understood that difference, my entire trading changed. Let me paint the picture. It was a Monday. I had slept 4 hours. Woke up groggy, but forced myself to show up. First trade of the day, I saw a breakout, entered without waiting for confirmation, got stopped out in 3 minutes. That annoyed me. Second trade, revenge trade, doubled size, got stopped again. Third trade, didn't even match my setup, but I clicked anyway just to feel in control again. And that's when I knew I wasn't trading. I was emotionally leaking into the screen. That day cost me more than money. It broke my trust in myself. Why? Because I had been trying to trade off of willpower, not discipline. Mark Douglas wrote, "Traders who rely on willpower eventually crack. Traders who rely on structure stay grounded." That was me. I cracked. Because here's the truth. Willpower depends on how you feel. Discipline depends on what you do, regardless of feeling. Willpower is great on good days, but trading will punch you on your worst days. And you'll need something sturdier than motivation. So I started studying what makes elite performers consistent. Navy SEALs, athletes, pilots, they all had one thing in common: routines, structures, non-negotiables. They didn't hope to perform, they engineered it. And that's when I stopped trying to trade well and started designing systems to protect me from myself. Here's how I rebuilt my discipline from the ground up. 1. Pre-market checklist, non-emotional. Before any chart analysis, I run through 5 questions. Did I sleep 6+ hours? Did I journal yesterday's trades? Am I emotionally neutral? Do I have 1 to 3 clear setups today? Do I accept the possibility of loss? If I answer no to more than 2, I don't trade. It's not punishment, it's protection. 2. Rule-based entries only. No more gut feeling clicks. If the candle doesn't close above X, if volume doesn't confirm, if RR isn't 2-1 or better, I don't enter, period. It removes guesswork. It removes emotion. 3. Written routine, not just memory. I used to say, yeah, I know what I'm supposed to do, but in the heat of a trade, memory fades, ego screams louder. So now I write down my setup of the day, maximum trades per session, cool down rituals if I hit max loss, affirmations that ground me. Because discipline is easier when it's visible. 4. Scheduled breaks and cool-off triggers. After 2 trades, win or lose, I take a 10-minute walk. If I lose 2 trades in a row, I pause for 1 hour minimum. It's not about punishment, it's about rebooting my brain before it takes over the system. Because I'm not just managing trades, I'm managing my nervous system. Let me be clear, discipline doesn't mean suppressing emotion. It means designing your behavior so emotion isn't in control. I'll tell you something personal. There was a time I told myself, I'm undisciplined, I always self-sabotage. But then I realized that wasn't truth, that was identity. And identity can be rewritten. So I started telling myself I'm a structured, disciplined trader who follows process even when I don't feel like it. Every day. Until I believed it. Until I acted like it. Until I became it. Because the goal is not to use more willpower. The goal is to use less willpower by building habits that carry you even on your worst days. Discipline is not a mood. It's a system. It's a rhythm. It's your safety net when chaos hits. Mark Douglas emphasized this often. Your greatest freedom comes from discipline, not from feeling good. That felt backwards at first. But now I get it. Because when you're truly disciplined, you trade less, but win more. You stop before tilting. You walk away proud, even after a loss. You trust yourself, even in drawdown, and that's real freedom. So here's your mindset shift. I'm done relying on willpower. I build discipline like a professional. Repeat that. Write it on your wall, put it on your screensaver, because trading isn't about talent. It's not about IQ. It's about how well you can follow through on what you already know when it matters most. And that comes from structure, from repetition, from identity. That's why this is mindset shift number 6, discipline over willpower. Because if you try to trade on emotion, you'll break. But if you trade on systems, you'll bend, adapt, and survive. Next up, mindset shift 7, embrace uncertainty, where we stop fearing the unknown and start seeing it as our greatest advantage. Embrace uncertainty. Let me ask you something. What do you feel right before you enter a trade? Excitement, confidence, or fear? For me, it was always fear. My heart would race, my palms would sweat, I'd hover over the button, double-checking everything. Is this really the right time? What if this candle reverses? Maybe I should wait for more confirmation. And sometimes I'd wait too long, miss the move, then FOMO kicked in. Enter late, exit worse. It was a vicious loop. caused by one thing: my fear of uncertainty. Here's the paradox. We come to trading for freedom, but we end up paralyzed because we can't accept the very thing that creates it: uncertainty. The market is uncertainty made visible. Every candle, every tick, every fake out, it's a reminder you don't control what happens next. That used to terrify me. But then I read this line from Mark Douglas that flipped everything upside down. The presence of uncertainty is what makes trading possible and profitable. Wait, what? I had to reread that line 10 times, because I'd always seen uncertainty as the enemy, the thing standing between me and success, the thing I needed to eliminate, outsmart, overcome. But now I was being told uncertainty isn't your problem, it's your opportunity. Let that sink in. Think about it. If outcomes were certain, if every setup worked 100%, there'd be no market, no risk, no edge, no traders, just bots running probabilities to zero. It's because we don't know what happens next that risk exists. And where there's risk, there's reward. You can't have one without the other. Let me share a moment that changed my career. It was a breakout setup on GBP JPY. I'd seen this pattern 100 times in backtests. It had a 58% win rate, 2-to-1 reward. But something felt off. Maybe it was the spread, maybe the market tone, maybe just nerves. I froze, watched it take off without me, hit target in 15 minutes. It was a clean trade I skipped because I wanted certainty. But here's the thing, certainty never comes. No matter how good the setup, how tight the confluence, how perfect the alignment, you will never know the outcome. And once I accepted that, I was free. Here's what changed when I embraced uncertainty. 1, I stopped overanalyzing. Before, I'd drown in charts, looking for reasons to avoid risk. Now, if the trade matches my edge, I execute, not because I'm sure, but because I trust the math, not the moment. 2, I released emotional attachment. I used to need the trade to work. Now, I'm okay either way, because every outcome teaches me something. Win equals reinforcement, loss equals feedback, break-evens, observation. It's all data, no drama. 3, I reframed my language. I stopped saying, I hope this works. This has to play out. Let's see if I'm right. Now I say, let's see what the market does. I don't predict, I prepare. Win or lose, I followed my edge. Those words might seem small, but they rewire your entire emotional response. Let's get tactical. 1, review losing trades that were good decisions. Make a losses I'm proud of folder. Include trades where you followed the system, you executed with discipline, the setup was valid even though it didn't work. This builds confidence in process, not outcome. 2, journal your reactions to the unknown. When you hesitate, skip, or second guess, what were you afraid of? What did you need to feel safe? What belief triggered the doubt? Awareness is step 1. Correction is step 2. 3, flip the narrative. Instead of thinking, uncertainty is scary, start saying, uncertainty is opportunity. Without it, there's no edge. Say it out loud, write it 100 times, breathe it, because that belief will change how you see every chart. Mark Douglas once said, when you accept the uncertainty of each edge, you eliminate the emotional risk of trading. That sentence saved me because it taught me I can't control results. I can control how I show up. I don't need certainty to trade well. What I need is trust. Trust in my process, trust in my rules, trust in the idea that not knowing is part of the job. So here's the mindset shift. I don't trade for certainty. I trade to apply my edge through uncertainty, because uncertainty isn't chaos. It's the fuel of the game. And once you stop resisting it, you stop hesitating, you stop panicking, you stop forcing. You finally become a trader who flows with the market, not fights it. That's why this is mindset shift number 7. Embrace uncertainty, because the market doesn't reward prediction. It rewards preparation, presence, and process amid the unknown. And if you can stand in the storm, calmly, consistently, with clarity, that's when trading becomes freedom. Next up, mindset shift number 8. You can't control the market, only yourself, where we let go of blame, reclaim our power, and finally start trading from the inside out. You can't control the market, only yourself. I used to think my biggest enemy was the market, the fake-outs, the news spikes, the algos, the tweets, the rumors, the wicks. Every time I lost money, I had a reason outside myself. It was manipulation. That candle was a trap. The market's broken. Sound familiar? Blame was my default coping mechanism, but it came at a cost. I gave away all my power. Then I read this line from Mark Douglas. You can't control the market, you can only control yourself. At first it sounded obvious, but the more I sat with it, the more uncomfortable I got, because if that's true, then every mistake, every loss beyond my plan, every blown trade was on me. Not the market, not the broker, not the spreads. Me. And facing that truth was the hardest thing I've ever done in trading. Let me take you back to a specific trade. It was crude oil. News had just dropped. Price surged. I got excited. FOMO kicked in hard. No setup, no confirmation. But I clicked anyway. It went green for 5 seconds, then reversed 100 ticks against me. I sat frozen, hoping, praying it would come back. It didn't. When I finally closed, I was down big, emotionally wrecked. And guess what I told myself? News messed everything up. This market is insane. But that wasn't true. The market didn't make me enter impulsively. The market didn't force me to skip my rules. I did that. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time you blame the market, you delay your growth. Why? Because as long as it's someone else's fault, you don't have to change. You don't have to reflect. You don't have to confront your ego. You don't have to improve your behavior. Blame feels good, but it kills progress. When I finally owned this mindset shift, everything changed. Not instantly, but gradually, steadily. Here's what I started doing. 1. Radical ownership journal. After every trade, win or lose, I asked, what was 100% within my control? What decision did I make? What emotion drove me? Did I follow my rules? No excuses, no scapegoats, just self-inquiry. It was brutal at first, but over time it rewired how I processed failure. 2. Clear boundaries of control. I made 2 lists. List A, what I can't control. Market direction, news events, whales, algos, volatility, execution slippage, outcome of any one trade. List B, what I can control. Risk per trade, entry criteria, exit strategy, position size, my emotional state, my pre-market routine, my response to uncertainty. I taped this list above my desk, and before every session I reminded myself, I trade from list B except list A. That single reminder saved me from dozens of bad trades. 3. Instant responsibility response. Whenever I felt the urge to say, that trade shouldn't have failed, the news ruined my plan. If the spread weren't so wide, I paused, took a breath, and asked, what did I do that contributed to this? Even if the event was external, my reaction was mine. That question shifted me from victim to leader. And guess what happened over time? My losses got smaller, my decisions got calmer, my risk stayed consistent, my confidence grew, not from winning, but from ownership. Because now, even when I lost money, I walked away with integrity. Let me tell you a story from the other side. There was a guy in a Discord group I used to trade with, Jason. Every day he blew up a trade, he blamed something. The broker hunted my stop, lag ruined the fill. That was news manipulation. Never once did he ask, did I follow my system? Was I emotionally reactive? Was my size appropriate? He wanted to be a profitable trader, but he refused to take control of the one thing he actually had, himself. And you can probably guess how that ended. He burned out, lost confidence, quit trading altogether. Not because the market was unfair, but because he never took back the wheel. You see, trading isn't a fight between you and the market. It's a test of whether you can stay grounded in yourself while chaos unfolds around you. The real game? It's inside. Here's the shift that saved me. The market is a mirror. It reflects me, not my wishes. If I'm greedy, it reveals it. If I'm fearful, it triggers it. If I'm patient and prepared, it rewards it. It doesn't lie. It doesn't judge. It just responds. And when I started responding with clarity instead of reacting with emotion, that's when the results started compounding. Mark Douglas said, you are the only variable you can truly master in the market. That's both terrifying and empowering, because it means this: you don't have to master the market, you just have to master yourself. So here's your mindset shift. I let go of what I can't control and own what I can, because that's where your power lives. Not in perfect trades, not in predicting moves, but in managing yourself with consistency, with courage, and with calm. That's why this is mindset shift number You can't control the market, only yourself. And when you finally stop trying to tame the chaos outside, you find the only edge that never fades: self-mastery. Next up, mindset shift number 9, detach your identity from your P&L, where we stop confusing our worth with our wins and finally find emotional freedom in trading. The mindset of probabilistic thinking: how to trade without needing to be right. You don't need to know what will happen next. You just need to act as if you do every time. I used to think trading was about prediction. If I could just read the chart right, or time the entry perfectly, or spot the hidden clue that everyone else missed, I'd finally win consistently. But that belief, that need to be right, was quietly killing my edge. The need to be right, psychological poison. When you need to be right, every trade becomes personal. You hold losers too long, you double down on bad setups, you avoid stops because they feel like failure. You don't cut losses, you defend your ego. You don't trade the market, you argue with it. I was that guy. I'd overanalyze, redraw my levels mid-trade, scroll Twitter for confirmation, anything to prove my bias. But the more I tried to be right, the more I lost. Because the market doesn't reward ego, it rewards discipline. It was Mark Douglas who gave me the words I needed: anything can happen. Not as a cliche, as a core trading truth. Once I truly accepted that one simple phrase, everything started to change. Probabilistic thinking, the trader's superpower. Here's what that mindset shift looks like in practice. You stop predicting, you start executing. You stop asking, will this work? And start asking, does this match my plan? You stop needing to win on this trade. You start trusting the next 100 trades. Probabilistic thinking isn't blind hope. It's statistical faith. It's understanding that trading edge plays out over time, not on command. It's like playing poker with the odds stacked in your favor while knowing that sometimes the 2% outcome will show up. And that doesn't mean you failed. It means you're a trader. The shift that saved my sanity. One day I had a string of 6 losses in a row, all setups from my plan, all managed with proper risk and all red. The old me would have spiraled, changed systems, blamed volatility, gotten scared to pull the trigger next time. But I didn't flinch. Why? Because now I saw the bigger sample size. I knew my strategy had a 62% win rate. 6 losses wasn't unusual. It was just noise inside the system. And within the next 20 trades, I had 12 wins, including a few big runners that made back every loss, plus profit. That's the power of probabilistic thinking. It releases you from the pressure to be perfect. It frees your nervous system from overreacting. It turns you into a machine, not emotionally, but professionally. You're no longer making decisions from fear or hope. You're making them from process. And that's what gives you longevity. From emotional to statistical. Here's a before-after snapshot of my mindset. Old mindset, probabilistic mindset. I have to win this trade. This trade is one of many. If I'm wrong, I failed. Losses are part of the game. This setup feels right. This setup meets my criteria. Let's see what happens. One is reactive. The other is repeatable. Repeatable, and repeatable is what gets you paid. Tools that help me rewire this. Here are 3 practices that help me internalize probabilistic thinking. 1, journaling outcomes over 20 trade cycles. I stopped evaluating myself trade by trade. I looked at rolling results over bigger samples. 2, defining win rate expectations. I knew exactly what a cold streak could look like statistically, so I didn't panic when it showed up. 3, if-then playbook mindset. Every trade was scripted. If X happens, I do Y. No more decisions in the heat of the moment. This didn't just improve my P&L, it improved my peace of mind. Final truth, you don't control the outcome. This was the hardest truth to swallow. You control your actions. The market controls the outcome. Read that again. When you truly accept this, your trading changes forever. You become consistent. Not because you're always right, but because you always show up the same way. And that consistency, that's what separates professionals from amateurs. So ask yourself right now, do you need to be right or do you want to be paid? Because one of those paths leads to pain, the other leads to freedom. Choose wisely. where we'll talk about building true identity level belief systems that sustain your mindset even through chaos, and how to rewire your nervous system to make discipline effortless. Identity level discipline, becoming the trader you say you are. Discipline isn't just about what you do, it's about who you believe you are. Let me ask you something simple but important. When you're about to place a trade, who do you see yourself as? A disciplined operator, or someone trying to act disciplined while battling every impulse inside? That difference between doing and being is what defines identity level discipline. And it might be the final shift that separates lifelong amateurs from professionals. The problem: when discipline is just a mask. In my earlier trading days, I had routines, I had rules, I had a checklist taped to my monitor. I followed them until I didn't. All it took was one bad mood, one market surprise, one tweet, and suddenly all the discipline vanished. I'd overtrade, move stops, break rules. The truth, I wasn't an undisciplined trader. I was a disciplined person pretending to be a disciplined trader. I hadn't truly become the identity of someone who honors rules like they breathe air. My discipline was external, imposed, borrowed, conditional. Real discipline? It's not what you do when things go well. It's what shows up when you're in pain, in doubt, in drawdown. And the only way that discipline survives those moments is if it's baked into your self-concept. The shift from acting to becoming, Mark Douglas said it best, you don't trade the markets, you trade your belief system. Your belief system shapes your identity, and your identity determines your behavior under pressure. So if you believe deep down that you're a disciplined professional trader who follows process no matter what, then when chaos hits, you act accordingly. But if you secretly still see yourself as a gambler trying to be good, a loser hoping to change, a hustler chasing the big win, then that self-image will hijack you every single time. Practical identity shift, how I rewired who I am. Here's how I made the shift from acting disciplined to being disciplined. 1. I changed how I talk to myself. No more, I'll try not to revenge trade. Instead, I'm a trader who honors my stop every time, no exceptions. Language matters. Internal dialogue is how the brain scripts identity. 2. I created an identity journal. Each day I wrote who I was committed to becoming, evidence I was already that person, what that version of me would do today. Example, I am a methodical trader who follows structure. Today, I stuck to my system even when tempted to chase a breakout. That's who I am. 3. I tracked integrity, not just results. I stopped measuring wins and losses only. Instead, I tracked, did I follow the plan? Did I respect my risk? Did I trade like the identity I committed to? Win or lose, I celebrated identity alignment. 4. I rewired beliefs at the subconscious level. Yes, I went deep. Meditation, visualization, affirmation loops, even hypnotherapy. Why? Because years of impulsive behavior had wired certain beliefs into my nervous system. I needed to overwrite them, not with willpower, but with emotional repetition. It wasn't overnight, but it worked. Identity in battle, a real moment that tested me. Last year, I had a brutal week. 3 losing trades in a row. Volatile market, a setup I loved, but my edge had shifted. My old self would have doubled down, overtraded, forced revenge. But that day, I paused. I literally whispered out loud, I am the kind of trader who waits for alignment. I don't chase, I don't force. And I walked away. No revenge, no tilt, no sabotage. That one decision didn't just save my account. It proved to my subconscious who I really was now. That's how you lock in identity level discipline. The deep truth, we trade who we are. If you're struggling to stay consistent, if you follow rules but always relapse under stress, if you keep wondering, why can't I hold myself together when it matters? Then you don't need more rules. You need a new identity. Because your trading isn't just a reflection of your system, it's a reflection of your self-image. The final mindset shift, here it is. The final shift that ties the other 49 together. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. So, who are you becoming? Are you a system trader or someone who betrays your system? Are you disciplined in theory or disciplined under fire? Are you trying to act like a pro, or have you become one from the inside out? Only you can answer that, but your account balance will eventually reveal it. Your next step. If you've come this far, then you're not just interested in trading. You're serious about becoming someone who trades with mastery. So here's your mission. Define your trading identity in a single sentence. I am the kind of trader who read it every morning. Track behavior that aligns or violates it. Reflect weekly on who you're becoming, because mindset isn't a checklist, it's a mirror. And if you can't trust the person in the mirror, no strategy will save you. But if you do, then you don't just shift your results, you shift who you are. That's the real 19,000 lesson. That's what Mark Douglas gave me. And now I've passed it to you. Let's trade like the version of ourselves we actually believe in. So here we are. After 50 mindset shifts, after nearly an hour of diving deep into the psychological foundations of successful trading, you've stuck around this long, and that tells me something about you. You're not here for quick wins. You're not looking for the perfect indicator or the next hot stock tip. You're here for mastery. And that already puts you ahead of 90% of traders out there. Because let's be honest, most traders don't even know psychology is the real battlefield. They think it's about strategy, timing, edge, but they never ask, who's the one executing that strategy? Who's pulling the trigger or hesitating at the worst possible moment? The answer is always the same. You. The market doesn't punish bad strategy as much as it punishes emotional inconsistency. And the ones who make it, they didn't just find a winning system. They became someone who could run that system with discipline, clarity, and confidence, even when everything inside them screamed to do the opposite. If this video resonated with you, even if it made you uncomfortable, that's good. Growth always feels awkward at first, like stretching a muscle you haven't used in years. So let me ask you this. Which shift hit you the hardest? Was it realizing your fear of being wrong has nothing to do with trading and everything to do with childhood patterns? Was it finally accepting that you're not in control of outcomes, only your actions? Or maybe it was seeing how you've been using your system as a way to avoid responsibility rather than step into it. Whatever it was, I want to hear it. Drop it in the comments. Let's talk. You're not alone on this journey. There are thousands of us walking this same path, fumbling, failing, learning, adjusting. Because that's what this channel is really about. Not pretending to have it all figured out, but having the courage to figure it out together. And if this isn't the first video you've watched on this channel, you already know what we do here. No hype, no get-rich-quick schemes, no BS. Just raw, honest lessons from the trenches. Mistakes I've made, pain I've paid for, and mindsets I've rebuilt. One trade, one journal entry, one sleepless night at a time. If you're new here, welcome. If something in this video clicked for you, hit that like button, not just to boost the algorithm, but to mark this moment for yourself, because sometimes a single click can be a small act of commitment to your own growth. If you want more deep dives like this, where we cut through the noise and get to the core of what really moves the needle in trading, then hit subscribe. Seriously, not because it helps me, but because I don't want you to lose another $19,000 learning what you can get here for free. And hit that bell icon, because we've got more coming. New series, real case studies, breakdowns of trader psychology in action. Not theory, not fluff. Real stuff that you can apply immediately. Here's a thought. Save this video, bookmark it. Come back to it once a month, especially after a losing streak. You'll hear it differently each time, because you'll be different each time. And that's the power of mindset work. It doesn't just change your trading, it changes you. It makes you more patient, more self-aware, more resilient. It builds a version of you who doesn't just chase profits, but builds emotional capital. The kind of capital that no bear market can take away. So here's what I want to leave you with. Trading is a mirror. It reflects back everything you bring into it. Your hopes, your fears, your need to be right, your tendency to sabotage when you get too close to success. And the good news, every one of those patterns can be rewired, but only if you're willing to face them. not once, but over and over again. Because mastery isn't a one-time event, it's a daily decision. You don't just become a disciplined trader by watching one video. You become it by choosing each morning, each trade, each journal entry to act from your plan, not your panic, from your rules, not your reactions. And that's what we're doing here, together. So here's your next step. Rewatch the parts that made you pause. Take notes, not just on what I said, but on what it made you realize about yourself. Share this with one trader you know is struggling silently. That's how we raise the standard, one honest conversation at a time. And finally, if you ever feel like quitting, don't. Take a break, refocus, come back stronger. Because you're not just trading charts, you're trading your future. And if you're willing to do the inner work, I promise you, the outer results will come. Until next time, trade with discipline, master your mind, and remember, you're the system.